A very good day to you. Today we are going to continue with MPU 2043U2, Leadership and Human Relations Skills. Okay, we are going to look at the topic number 2, which is on the characteristics of a leader. Okay, so the learning outcome for this particular topic will be what it takes to be a leader. So we are going to discuss the characteristics of a leader. The main question for today is, what does it take to be a leader? So leadership is not only about positions or title. Leadership is about personal characteristics that guide how a person thinks, acts, and influence others. Based on experience, some important characteristics of leader include responsibility, integrity and honesty, good communication, confidence, ability to work with others, and willingness to help and to serve. So a leader is someone who is willing to step forward, take responsibility, and guide others in the right direction. This is why the slide asks you to reflect on yourself. Do you think you are a leader? Why do you think so? There is no right or wrong answer. Okay, so leadership can be shown in many small daily actions. I give you a very simple example. Imagine a group assignment, and there is this one particular student who always reminds the group about the deadlines. He helps members who are confused and encourages everyone to participate. This student may not be officially appointed as the leader, but their actions show leadership characteristics. This student is clearly practicing leadership. So remember, leadership starts with self-awareness. Before leading others, we must first understand ourselves. Okay, everyone has the potential to be a leader. So here we are going to look at some characteristics of a leader. Now, a leader does not need to have all these listed qualities as you can see in this slide. But the good leaders usually demonstrate many of them in their actions. And from this slide, some important characteristics of leader include focus, where a leader knows what needs to be done. Confidence, he believes in themselves. Integrity, honest and does the right thing. Inspiration, where he motivates others. Passions, he stays calm when facing problems. Open-minded, accepts different ideas. Positive, encourages others. Generous and caring, where he helps people. Wise and smart, where he makes good decisions. Risk taker, willing to try new things. So leaders also show personal qualities such as self-control, responsibility, honesty, trustworthiness, calmness, creativity, sense of humor, and a good communication. All these characteristics help leaders build trust and cooperation. So a leader always thinks clearly, acts responsibly, treat others with respect, encourages and support people. Leadership is shown through daily behavior, not just words. So, in conclusion, for this particular slide, leadership is just about a character, not the position. Everyone has leadership qualities within themselves. The key is to practice these qualities in everyday life. Leadership starts with who you are, not what title you have. So, in this slide, he explains what it is mean to be a leader. First, being a leader means showing moral and ethical courage. This means doing the right thing even when it is difficult. A leader must set a good example for others through actions and not just words. Second, being a leader means helping others develop leadership skills. A leader teaches, guides, and supports people around them. And by doing this, followers are able to help carry the heavy lifting, moving an organization, a team, or a group from where it is now to where it needs to be in the future. Leadership is not about doing everything alone. It is about empowering others to move together toward a goal. So a leader acts with honesty and ethics, sets a good example, develops leadership in others, and helps the team move forward. So in conclusion for this particular slide is that leadership starts with character and values. A good leader builds future leaders. Leadership is about moving people forward together. And that is the true meaning of being a leader. Okay, so that's the end of topic 2. And now we are going to proceed with topic 3, which is we are going to discuss on the leadership, old paradigm and the new paradigm leaders. Okay, so first, let us understand what a paradigm is. A paradigm is a shared mindset. It means how people think, see, and understand the world. And in simple words, a paradigm shapes how we think, how we see problems, and how we make decisions. In leadership, paradigm is very important because leaders influence how others think. A good leader can help people change their way of thinking, especially when change is needed. So a paradigm is a shared mindset. It affects how we understand the world, influences decisions, and also actions. Leadership often requires changing all paradigm to create progress. I'll give you a simple example. Imagine the whole class believes that only the smartest students can succeed. This is a paradigm. A leader changes this thinking by saying, everyone can improve with effort and support. So when students start believing this new mindset, their behavior and performance improve. That is leadership changing a paradigm. So in short, paradigm is how we think and see the world. Leadership involves influencing and changing mindsets. Changing thinking leads to better results. So leadership begins in the mind before it appears in action. Now, this slide shows the difference between the old paradigm and the new paradigm in leadership. First, let's look at the old paradigm. In the old way of thinking, leadership focuses on stability. Leaders use control. People compete with each other. Everyone is expected to be the same or uniformity. Leadership is self-centered. The leaders act like a hero who decides everything. Now let's look at the new paradigm. In the new way of thinking, leadership focuses on change and crisis management. Leaders empower others, not control them. People practice collaboration, not competition. Diversity is valued. Leadership is driven by higher ethical purpose. Leaders are humble. They listen and learn from others. So if we look at this slide, the old paradigm will be focuses more on control, stability, and self-centered leadership. Whereas in the new paradigm, they will focus more on the empowerment, collaboration, ethics, and humility. So leadership today is no longer about control and ego. Modern leadership is about change, collaborations, ethics, and humility. That shift from old to new thinking is called a paradigm shift in leadership. Now we are going to look at the leadership paradigm and theory by comparing the old leadership paradigm and the new leadership paradigm. Okay, first, let's look at the old leadership paradigm. In the old way of thinking, only a select few people can be leaders. Leadership is seen as something you are born with. Because of this thinking, early leadership theories focused on the leader's personal qualities such as great man theories, where leaders are born and not made, threat theory, leaders have special threats, and also the behavioral theory, where leadership depends on how leaders behave. Now let's look at the new leadership paradigm. In the new way of thinking, anyone can be a leader. Leadership can be learned and developed. The new leadership theories focused more on people, situations, and influence, such as contingency theory, where leadership depends on the situation, influential theory, where leadership is about influence, transformational theory, where leaders inspire change, transactional theory, leadership is based on rewards and exchange. So, all paradigm where the leadership is for a few special people. In new paradigm, leadership is possible for everyone. So leadership theories evolve as thinking about leadership changed. So leadership today is no longer about titles or being born special. Leadership is about learning, influence, and contribution. Anyone can be a leader if they choose to take responsibility and support others. Now let's look at the all paradigm theories. There are three. The first one is the great man theory of leadership. Here, the great man theory assumes that leaders are born, not made. This means leadership ability is something a person naturally has from birth. And according to this theory, leaders are special people. Leadership qualities cannot be learned, and only few people are meant to lead. And this theory was popular in the past, especially when leadership was linked to famous heroes, kings, or historical figures. The image on the slide symbolizes a natural leader standing above others, leading everyone forward. This reflects the idea that leadership comes naturally to certain individuals. So the great man theory believes that leadership is inherited. Leaders are born with special qualities, and not everyone can become a leader. And today, we know that leadership can be learned and developed. But the great man theory is important because it is one of the earliest leadership theories. Understanding all theories helps us see how leadership thinking has evolved over time. Next, we will discuss the threat theories of leadership. The threat theory assumes that leaders are better suited to leadership because they possess certain qualities or traits. In simple words, this theory believes that good leaders have the right personal characteristics. These characteristics make them more effective than others. And according to this theory, leadership can be identified by personality traits such as intelligence, honesty, self-confidence, appearance, and presence. People who have more of these traits are seen as more likely to be leaders. So the threat theory believes that leaders have special qualities. Personality matters in leadership, and people with the right traits make better leaders. I'll give you one example. Imagine there are two students in a class. The one student, where he speaks confidently, honest, thinks clearly, and gain respect easily. And because of these traits, classmates naturally listen and follow this particular student. And according to the threat theories, this student is more suited to be a leader. So the threat theory is important because it helps us understand why some people appear more confident and influential as leaders. However, it does not explain how leadership skills can be developed, which is why newer theories later emerged. Next, we will learn about the behavioral theory of leadership. The behavioral theory focuses on what leaders do, not who they are or what traits they have. And according to this theory, leadership is based on behavior. Leadership can be observed and learned. A leader's actions are the best indicator of leadership success. In other words, how a leader behaves, how they act, communicate, and make decisions determines how effective they are as a leader. This theory believes that leadership is about a manner of behaving or conducting oneself, especially when dealing with others. So behavioral theory believes that leaders are not born, they are made. Leadership depends on actions and behavior. Good leadership can be learned through practice. Give you one example. There are two types of leader in a class. The first leader, he listens to group members, he encourages teamwork, and help solve problems calmly. Whereas the second leader, he shouts at his member, he ignores opinion and blame others. Now, according to the behavioral theory, the first leader is more successful because of positive behavior, not because of personality or title. So, in conclusion for this particular slide and this theory is that leadership is shown through behavior. Actions matter more than position. Good leadership behavior can be learned and improved. This is why the behavioral theory is important in modern leadership studies. Now, moving on to the new paradigm of leadership. The first one is on the contingency theory of leadership. Here, the theory states that a leader effectiveness depends on the situation. In other words, there is no single best leadership style that works in all situations. The word contingency means one thing depends on other things. And according to this theory, a leader must adjust their style. Leadership success depends on situational factors, and what works in one situation may not work in another. Situational factors can include the task, the people involved, and the environment or the crisis. So the contingency theory believes that leadership style must match the situation. Leaders must be flexible, and the situation will determine the leadership success. So, in conclusion, for contingency theory, the leadership is not one size fits all. A good leader adapts to situations, and situations will determine how a leader should lead. This is the main idea behind the contingency theory of leadership. Next, we will learn about the influential theory of leadership. Here, the theory focuses on influence and power. Influence means the effect a person's actions have on another people, attitudes, belief, value, or behavior. And according to this theory, leadership is not about positions or title. Leadership is about how leaders use influence to get things done. And different leaders will use different types of power and influence. So this theory looks at how leaders influence others and how power is used responsibly and what leadership style emerges from that influence. In simple terms, people follow leaders because of influence, not force. So, summary for this particular slide is that influential theory believes that leadership is about influence. Power affects how people respond, and leadership style depends on how influence is used. So, in conclusion for this particular theory is that leadership comes from influence, not authority. Next is how leaders will use their powers to shape their leadership style. An effective leader influences others positively. This is the main idea of influential theory of leadership. Next is on the transformational theory of leadership, where this theory focuses on the ability of a leader to bring significant change to followers and the organization. And according to this theory, leaders inspire and motivate people. Leaders focused on team building and collaboration. Leaders encourages the followers to perform beyond their expectation. Transformational leaders do not only focus on tasks, they also focus on personal and professional growth of their followers. And these leaders will set clear and challenging goals. It motivates others to improve and help people grow in skills and confidence. So transformational leadership is about inspiring change, motivating people, building strong teams, and helping followers to grow. So, in conclusion, for this particular theory is that transformational leaders inspire change. They motivate people to reach higher performance, and they're focused on growth, not just results. This is why transformational leadership is one of the most important modern leadership theories. Next is on the transactional leadership. This theory is based on transactions or exchange between leaders and followers. This means leaders give rewards for good performance. Followers receive benefits when they complete tasks well. And according to this theory, leaders use discipline and incentive. Motivation comes from rewards or punishment. Performance is encouraged through clear expectation. The word transactional simply means you do this and you get that. It focuses more on task completions and results, not personal development. So in simple summary, for this particular slide is that transactional leadership involves exchange between leaders and followers, rewards for good performance, clear rules and expectation. I give you a simple example. Imagine a lecturer tells the students this: if you submit your assignment on time, you will get full marks. But if you submit late, marks will be deducted. So students are motivated to perform because of the rewards or penalty. And this is transactional leadership. So in summary, in conclusion for this particular slide, where transactional leadership is based on rewards and discipline, it focuses on performance and results. It works well when tasks are clear and structured. This theory is commonly used in workplace and organization. Thank you for your attention. I'll see you in our next topic.